We specialize in the Polish World War II experience publishing in English. We're a member of the Association of American Publishers and the Independent Book Publishers Association. Our titles are distributed to the trade by National Book Network. What that means is that we don't even sell on our website. Our books go through NBN, National Book Network, and they distribute to bookstores, to the major wholesalers, Ingram, Baker, and Taylor, Follett. So, you know, we're actually like a real grown-up publishing company in how our material is handled. I'm very proud that all of our books to date have won one or more awards, and we're going to do a quick, Eva, my creative director, is going to help me. We're going to do a quick look through some of the things that we've done. But Consul General Rusiecki asked me to tell you why and how I started this company. Because I'm not Polish, nor is anyone in my family. My own background is Armenian. All four of my grandparents lost family and everything, really, all of their possessions in the Turkish massacres of 1915. And my grandparents were orphaned as little children, ended up in refugee camps in Syria, and eventually made their way to the United States. Thank God, I always thank God, knock on wood, that I was born in this country, because it's really, I think, probably the best possible outcome for our family. So if you had said to me 15 years ago that I would be publishing the Polish World War II experience, I would go, why? I don't know anything about it. I don't care about it. I'm not Polish. It's not of any interest to me. So, but you know, life has a way of happening, and through many different steps, I was drawn to do this. And the real beginning was, I am a lawyer. I practiced law in Los Angeles for 12 years, and I specialized in film finance work. And I burned out doing that. Thought I wanted to be a film producer, have one film to my credit, but I didn't love it enough. I was used to dealing with the business side of the film business, which was crazy enough. But when you get to the talent side of the film business, I just didn't have the patience to deal with talent. But I loved the story conferences and the script analysis, and I started writing a novel that had a World War II backstory. And somewhere, and I think I always call this like the hand of God, somewhere, and I don't know where and how, I had heard about Polish fighter pilots being these amazing ace pilots that helped save England during the Battle of Britain. And I didn't know anything else about it. And I wasn't even sure that I was remembering that correctly. So I went over to UCLA. My office and my home are both near UCLA. And I just started reading Poland in World War II, the sections in the library. And I was reading, because I was looking for primary source material as writing a novel. I was reading the memoirs of the key resistance leaders, Korbansky and, of course, Jan Karski and Jan Novak and Prokomarovsky and Anders. And I'm reading these things, and I'm going, oh my God, this is an amazing story. And I didn't know any of it. All I'd ever heard about Poland was the Holocaust. So as time went on, this is an amazing story of incredible heroism against overwhelming odds. And the Poles never gave up. They were incredibly resourceful, incredibly patriotic, incredibly honorable. These were amazing, amazing stories. And I, of course, when I talk to mostly American, non-Polish audience, I say, this is an amazing story, and we don't know it because it was suppressed by the communists, suppressed and distorted by the communists after the war, in order to minimize any kind of international sympathy for the independent Poland. But of course, when I started this, I was just researching for my novel. So my husband and I went on our first trip to Poland, and it's a long story how that came about. But on the way, or before we went, I called the concierge at the Bristol Hotel where we were going to stay, and I asked if he could provide a guide and a translator for us, because I wanted to research some material for this book. And he did. He organized somebody, and this lady was in her early 60s, I would say. She came to the meeting with 2 books under her arm, and she said to me, I want to thank you for this assignment. She said, I knew none of this. She said, growing up, we were taught it was the communist resistance that saved Poland from the Nazis, and the Armia Krajowa guys were clowns. And I literally got goosebumps because I thought, here is a lady that doesn't know her own history because of propaganda. So she would have grown up, she looked like she might have been born in the late 40s, after the war. Now, in subsequent years, our past Consul General Paulina Kapuscinska, who was Consul General here, she was Consul General in Los Angeles, and I was telling her this story. And I said, I don't understand that. She goes, well, Terry, you have to understand, that's what we were taught in school. But my family was in the underground, and so we were taught the truth at home. So the next time I went to Poland, I said to Jadwiga, this was the translator, I said, Jadwiga, I just don't understand how you could not know. And she said, my family were peasants. We were out in the country, nobody was in the underground, nobody knew what was going on, so they just believed what they were told. So I say, it's no mystery that Americans don't know what went on, because even some Poles didn't know, and that's because of the evil of propaganda. So how do you fight propaganda? Maybe with the truth, and I suppose that's part of why I'm doing what I'm doing, is to get stories out there, and I'm actually, most of our books, I think almost all of them, are first-hand accounts, because I feel first-hand accounts, especially those that are written near the time that the events occurred, those accounts are likely to be more true than historical accounts looking back, because at that time there's no agenda. It's just this is what's happening. This is what I lived through. It may not be the whole truth. It's going to be a piece of the truth, but it will be that person's true experience. Okay, so that's kind of how I got into doing this. Little by little, it's again, step by step. I certainly never started out to form a publishing company, but here we are. I formed the company originally with a partner in England who I met on the internet when I was researching for my novel, Stefan Mucha, and he, we worked together for 7 years, and he just kind of burned out doing it and transitioned out of the company a couple of years ago. But Stefan did all of our original graphic work. He's a graphic designer and quite good and quite really wonderful. But I'm very happy I have with me my new creative director, Eva Wojcik, who's based in Los Angeles, whose family actually almost reads like one of my books, but she's an assistant professor of design at USC, University of Southern California, and works for me freelance in her spare time. And you can see some of her work both in Julian's book, The Color of Courage, for which she won a gold award for interior design, and we won a silver for autobiography and memoir. And in John Guzlowski's book, The Echoes of Tattered Tongue, she does the artwork, the exterior artwork, and the interior typesetting and design. So here we go. This is our, we're small, so we don't do a lot of books, but so far every one of our books has won an award. And let's move on to the next. I'm going to give you real quick. Not only have we won awards, but we've been reviewed in major media such as the New York Times, Air and Space magazine excerpted part of 303 Squadron. We did a brand new English translation of 303 Squadron. We acquired the rights from Arkady Fiedler's son, Marek Fiedler, and he wanted a new translation. I don't know how many of you are familiar with that book, but it first was written by Arkady Fiedler, actually during the Battle of Britain, and in Polish, and then translated to English, published in English in '42. But the pilots were all given code names. So our edition is the first edition in England where the pilots are identified in English, so we're pretty proud about that. I've actually been on national television on Lifetime. I was interviewed on Lifetime about our first book, The Mermaid and the Messerschmitt. We do live appearances. Here I am at the Long Beach Rotary doing a presentation on 303 Squadron. This is Julian Kulski last summer doing the unveiling of a mural featuring you as a, thank you, Mark, that's great, featuring Julian. Let's see, where's that? Yeah, here's Julian in the mural as a young man, as a young commando, and here he is, still able to fit into his army uniform, by the way. He was at the unveiling event last August in Brooklyn. This is actor Marek Probosz, who some of you may know because he's been here in Chicago. Marek and I have a two-person show that we do about Witold Pilecki and the Auschwitz Volunteer, our book, The Auschwitz Volunteer. And that's because, many of our books, I'm very fortunate today I have two actually live authors who love doing events, but many of our books we don't have an author. They're passed away, or they're very elderly, or they don't speak English. And so I have to become the face of the book. And with the Pilecki book, Mark has worked with me, and he's based in Los Angeles. I know him, he's become a good friend. So it's, it's kind of fun. This was an event we did last March at Hillel at UCLA, co-sponsored by several Jewish groups and the consulate in Los Angeles. The Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C., they did their International Holocaust Remembrance Day in 2013 on our book and Witold Pilecki. And they invited the director of research from the Auschwitz-Birkenau Museum to come, and along with Yale professor Timothy Snyder. And that was a very, probably 400 people at that event. That was an amazing event. Yeah, we've just been everywhere. I mean, actually, Loyola Marymount University in Los Angeles is using one of our books, The Mermaid and the Messerschmitt. A professor there is using that book in one of her classes. She's used it for 6 semesters, and every semester she invites me to come and teach one class about Poland and World War II. So I have a whole PowerPoint that I do with some videos to show the kids. Next, maybe. We also advertise, although probably, I don't know if you guys have seen any of our advertisement, we advertise pretty extensively in the trade publications, Publishers Weekly, Forward Reviews, but also in military magazines. Our ads have been in World War II Quarterly, Military Heritage. We have been in the Polish American Journal, the Jewish Journal. So we try and do that. Here's some of our ads. These are ads that Eva has done for us. We did a series of 3 ads at BEA a few years ago, 3 ads about the Auschwitz volunteer, and you can see she cleverly did, one man did the unthinkable. Could his report have changed history if only they had believed him? And I'll tell you, we sent the book with our distributor. I didn't go to exhibit that year. And the distributor said this just drew people into the booth like crazy. They were coming by asking about the book. Here's a couple of more ads that we did for Julian Kulski's book, The Color of Courage. This was a full-page ad that we took in one of the military magazines, I believe, and then we also took digital ads. We take ads on PW, the PW Daily, and some of the other digital e-newsletters. We've done book trailers, excuse me, for the last 3 books. And John, I think I'm going to start your event with the book trailer. I think we'll show the book trailer, okay? And what else have we got? Next. Social media, if you look for us, we're on Facebook and Twitter under Poland and WW2. And I exhibit at conventions. This is the ASEEE convention, ASEES, which is the Association for Slavic, East European, and Eurasian Studies. And that is academics in the Slavic studies area. That's every November. This coming November, it's going to be in Washington, D.C. And we did, for Julian's book, because he wrote the book, covers his years 10 to 16, we did an educator's guide. We thought that that would be this book is appropriate for perhaps high school students. And we retained a nationally known young adult nonfiction specialist, librarian, who had been formerly chair of the Newbery Committee. If those of you in the book business know the Newbery Committee is one of the primary children's book committees. And she prepared this educator's guide for us, which we have samples of on the table. And as I mentioned, a couple of our books have been adopted, both Color of Courage and Loyola Mermaid have been adopted that we know of. I think the Auschwitz volunteer is being used, but I don't know exactly where. Now, here's something that I'm very proud of. We did for the first time in Julian's book. We spent a lot of time researching in the National Archives and in the archives in Poland historical film and audio material, and created 11 short videos. And they are included in the book. This is a page out of the book, 2 pages actually. They're included in the book via QR code and also the URL, so you can type, the things are stored up on YouTube. Most of them are under 3 minutes, and you can either scan the QR code with your phone and go straight to the video, or you can type in the URL. I think that's it. So that's the company. Now I'd like to introduce, before we move on to John Guzlewski, I want to just run his trailer. Can we do that?
You have to be with us.